in my opinion.
Wholesale costs in the United States picked up sharply last month, signaling that price pressures are still evident in the economy, even though inflation has tumbled from peak levels hit more than 2 years ago. The Producer Price Index, which tracks inflation before it reaches consumers, rose 0.4% last month from October. Measured from 12 months earlier, wholesale prices climbed 3% in November. A new Fox News poll shows the economy is top of mind for Americans, with fully 60% saying it is extremely important for President Trump to lower prices. Florida Chief Financial Officer and congressional candidate Jimmy Patronis is confident that Trump will bring down prices.
Inflation rose under Biden. This is exactly why President Trump got elected. Groceries were just too high. Look, President Trump will lower the cost just as he did before when he was president. He will cut spending. He will close programs that do not work, and he does get results. He's a CEO. This guy has signed the front side of a paycheck.
Lawmakers search for the origin of drones flying over New Jersey. New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew says it is unbelievable that no one at the Pentagon has any answers. So the only real way to find out where they're coming from is to shoot one down.
These drones should be shot down. Whether it was some crazy hobbyist that we can't imagine, or whether it is Iran, and I think it very possibly could be, they should be shot down. We are not getting the full deal, and the military is on alert with this.
Pequannock Township Mayor Ryan Hurd says they're getting nothing from Governor Murphy.
Are you telling me that somebody can be flying drones over my town in Pequannock and nobody has any idea what's going on? This is unacceptable. Where are you, Phil Murphy? This is ridiculous.
A U.S. senator suggested that the CEO of United Healthcare was responsible for his own assassination. Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts said this about the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of United Health. But you can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands.
President-elect Donald Trump says he will not restrict the abortion pill, although he is not ruling out the possibility. Chris Woodward has more.
Trump made the comment on NBC's Meet the Press. Host Kristen Welker brought up the fact that more than half of abortions in this country now are medication abortions.
Will you restrict the availability of abortion pills when you're in office?
I'll probably stay with exactly what I've been saying for the last 2 years, and the answer is no.
You commit to that?
Well, I commit. I mean, do things change? I think they change.
Carol Tobias of National Right to Life Committee says her organization would like to see the pill severely restricted, but she does not know whether that's going to happen.
What I am hoping is that the president will be willing to go back to the law that was in effect when he was president, which were much stricter regulations on the pill from the Food and Drug Administration. We've seen women die in this country because they did not get proper medical care after taking the abortion pill. So my hope and what I think we can see happen is that this new administration will at least require the FDA to put these common sense protections for women back in place.
I'm Chris Woodward.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
There was a time when getting what you needed from the store wasn't very convenient. Aren't you thankful times have changed? Now you can go online and find more stuff quicker than ever before. When you're looking for ministry-related resources or entertainment that's safe for your family, you don't have to scour the internet. The AFA Resource Center has so much of that and more all in one place. Resources.afa.net. You'll find videos from the AFA Cultural Institute, American Family Coffee, kids videos, stylish apparel, and so much more. If it's been a while since you visited, take a few minutes to check out the new stuff. And if you're new to AFA, take some time to stop by and see all there is to offer. Either way, you'll find powerful instruction to help you grow in your faith and tools to help you share it. And when you shop there, you're also supporting the ministry of AFA. It's a win-win. Take some time today and visit resources.afa.net. resources.afa.net.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network for this Thursday, December the 12th, 2024. Tim Wildman here with Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
Fred Jackson.
Good morning.
And Chris Woodward.
Hello.
And so that was.
Hello?
I like your enthusiasm there.
Did you
It's
say
my first
hello?
day back. Yeah, I've been away
Yes.
burning some vacation days.
Yes. Burning vacation time?
That's what I do.
You need to invest your vacation time, Chris.
That sounds like a good book title.
Be more. I don't know. Are you supposed to be productive on vacation, Ed?
I'm burning. I'm burning vacation time starting Monday.
Productivity and vacation, two words that just don't go together, I don't
Okay,
think.
here's a
go
little
ahead.
confession. I always have a long list like this. So I save up vacation days the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I always have a long list of projects
Uh-huh.
that I'm going to work on.
Yeah, you are.
And usually don't do any of them.
I get to it next year.
Oh, well, this is the time of year I don't see my two sons.
Yeah, they go hunting.
Yeah, I guess. Either they're at the casino. I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure they're going hunting.
No,
because
they're going hunting.
Yesterday I saw in Walker's office, he had magazines for his his rifle. He had his binoculars. He had all kinds of stuff.
It's the Lord, and then their family, and then deer hunting, and sometimes those get out of order.
Yeah, that can happen
this time of year. So
for those hunters.
I'll see them sometime in February.
It's idolatry. No.
Wait, you turn on the hockey game.
Well, I turn on hockey and college football.
It is funny how we judge others and we say they spend too much time doing so and so, and then we don't apply that same to ourselves on whatever it is we enjoy doing.
Are you saying human beings tend to be hypocrites?
Yes, I am. Oh me. So, all right, here's the we got Jan Markell coming up to the bottom of the hour. We got Jenna Ellis in just a few minutes here on the program, and so we look forward to having Jenna and Jan. And I wanted to mention, what do we want to mention here before we get started? There's one story we wanted to get to. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, President Joe Biden is acting like Santa Claus.
Is he now?
And I say that because in the biggest single-day act of clemency in modern history, President Biden is commuting the sentences of roughly 1,500 people who were released from prison and placed on home confinement during the coronavirus pandemic. Biden is also pardoning 39 Americans convicted of nonviolent crimes. This, of course, comes after the announcement from Joe Biden that he was pardoning his son, Hunter Biden. To put things in perspective here, I mentioned this is the biggest single-day act of clemency in modern history. The second largest single-day act of clemency was by Barack Obama with 330 names shortly before he left office. So Biden hit this one out of the park if he was trying to set a record.
Wow. How many did he?
1,500 people.
So you got clemency or you got pardoning? You got both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a commutation reduces.
You don't want to be one of those. Am I right?
They wrote a manifesto.
Yes. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah, those commutations and other Marxists.
They're go ahead.
Commutation is when you reduce a person's sentence after they've been convicted. A pardon basically says they're not guilty. I mean, we do have a lawyer coming on.
Yeah.
We could ask.
You were going to go to law school, right?
Yes.
Just didn't ever make it there because
I became a Christian and got called into the ministry, but that did not stop my mother from introducing me to people and saying, "This is my son. He left law. He left being a lawyer to be a minister." And this conversation twice actually happened in front of the people she was introducing me to. And I said, "Mom, I was never a lawyer." She said, "Well, you went to law school."
Right.
I said, "No, I didn't go to law school.
You went further than I did.
I was pre-law." She said she's in undergraduate school, and she said, "Oh, well, same thing."
Yeah. I watch Law and Order a lot.
I'd go, "Ma, come on."
Ding, ding.
Yeah.
Law and Order. Ding, ding. Isn't that how it goes?
Yeah.
Ding, ding.
Yeah.
Then they walk into some store that some employee is talking to them and telling them everything they know
Yeah.
And they're always talking while they're putting boxes on a shelf.
Yeah,
I
that
saw
is
the killer.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, he had, he had red hair and he talked funny and came by here. But
That is true. They are always.
They're doing something.
They're doing.
They're
Some
moving
sort of
around.
action.
They don't
Yeah.
stop to answer the call. It's like when two detectives walk in to ask you about a murder, you don't stop.
Right. You don't.
No, you keep working.
You don't keep putting up boxes of Charmin.
Yeah.
on the
That's what
shelf.
they're doing. Have you noticed?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
that's
a standard cliche for the
Yep.
Law and Order
Trope.
shows. All right, so your story is about that's one of the lead stories is
Yes.
about President Biden opening up the jail cells.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's on afn.net,
Okay,
which
all
is
right.
our website.
Yes. All right, so joining us right now is Jenna Ellis. Jenna Ellis is host of Jenna Ellis in the Morning on American Family Radio from 7 to 8 o'clock Central Time right here on AFR. And Jenna also has a podcast we'll mention in just a moment. Good morning, Jenna.
Good morning. And, I really take umbrage, Ed, that you don't think that you can be a lawyer in ministry. I mean, that is a thing.
I did notice that.
I don't even know how to spell
lawyer,
umbrage.
Christian, two words that don't go together.
Well, when I became a Christian, my dad. This is the absolute truth, because I was in undergrad. My plan was to go to law school, become a lawyer, and I was on the debate team and all that kind of stuff. And so my dad, when I became a Christian, nobody else. My sister was, but my dad wasn't at the time. He said, "Ed, you cannot be a lawyer and a Christian." That's what he told me.
He was serious.
He was serious. He said, "You got to make all kinds of compromises and all."
He knew that much, right?
And the problem actually is that too many Christians believe that. And so they don't take their biblical worldview into their legal practice. And that's actually a really big problem that that I address in my book that is now 10 years old, by the way, which,
Wow.
kind of makes
10
me
years old.
feel old. Yeah, but the legal basis for a moral constitution. And it kind of goes through some of my own law school experience as well. And I know you kind of meant that as a joke, but it is actually a serious thing that Christians don't take their biblical worldview into their vocation, including lawyering.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean it as a joke. My dad actually believed that.
Right, because he wasn't a believer, and in his mind, his experience with lawyers that were shysters.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate. I always say that 99% of lawyers give the 1% of good ones a bad name.
Yeah.
So.
And nobody likes lawyers until you need one.
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm a recovering lawyer now because I don't practice in Florida, and kind of left all of that in Colorado. So I call myself a recovering lawyer now.
Hey, before we get to the topic, we want to talk drones with you. But someone sent around to leadership last night 5,000. What is this? People watching your show, Jenna Ellis in the Morning?
Oh, yeah. We're streaming on X. So actually, yesterday on X, we had about 9,000 people tune in just on the X platform. So that's actually gotten us a whole different demographic of audience here at AFR, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. Okay, here's the thing. You jumped 5,000 viewers, I think. That was the thing that was sent out.
Yeah.
So, hey, congratulations.
Thanks.
On what you're doing, the folks that you're reaching. And I've been listening the last few mornings and try to, get around to different shows to listen. And always great guests. I didn't actually get to listen to all of it this morning, but we wanted to kind of have you on to talk about drones. By the way, folks, Jenna Ellis, host of Jenna Ellis in the Morning, heard weekdays at 7 a.m. Central Time on AFR, because this story is a big deal, and you had a guest on to discuss this. Why don't you kind of fill us in?
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad that you went this direction, because at first I thought you were going to say that this is going to be like the live, performance reviews at the end of the year. Like I was listening to your show, and here's where we're going. But
No.
So thankfully we're going in the drone direction.
Yes.
But yeah, this is a wild story that mystery drones are over New Jersey. And the Pentagon held a briefing. Their spokesperson came out yesterday to respond to Representative Van Drew, who's a Republican from New Jersey, who actually said in a Fox News interview yesterday, and I played part of the clip on my show, he said that he's gotten a briefing from undisclosed sources, but he claims that they're very trustworthy, that these drones are coming from Iran, and that there is a mothership off the coast of New Jersey that are launching these drones. And of course, this would be synonymous basically with the Chinese spy balloon, that test balloon that we all remember that the Biden administration didn't actually do anything about until it had traversed the entire United States collecting who knows what data. And so the interesting thing about the Pentagon's briefing is that they say that they don't know where these are from. They're not U.S. military, but they're very clear that they're not a threat. And my question is, well, if you know absolutely nothing about them, how do you know that they're not a threat?
And how do you know they're not from Iran, Jenna?
Right.
If you say you don't know anything about them, how can you deny what the congressman is saying?
Well, and especially when this is a congressman who clearly would have access to some very high-level people who could give him this type of briefing. I mean, it's not just, a reporter claiming a source, which could also be accurate, but, this is somebody who clearly would have this kind of intel, and he's willing to put it forward to the public. So at this point, I mean, I'm personally more inclined to believe Representative Van Drew's sources than the Pentagon's denial, especially when the Biden administration has really done nothing. As my guest this morning, Gerard Folletti, he's a lawyer with a lawfare group, and he's an expert in foreign policy, and he was saying that this is just another dereliction of duty from the Biden administration to basically point fingers, and they actually were suggesting, the Pentagon was suggesting, that they were turning to local law enforcement. And I'm thinking, yeah, let's get the local cops out there, to see what's going on with these drones from a mothership that, of course, isn't going to have like a flag draped across it saying, "Hi, we're from Iran." Those are our call signals. I mean, that obviously that's not going to be the case. And so you have this sort of incompetency of pointing fingers and saying, "Not it, not it, not it." Meanwhile, all of these drones are continuing to surveil.
Jenna, what I don't understand, if a Cessna 172 flies into D.C. airspace, they scramble F-16 fighter jets. And that Cessna better turn around or they're going to shoot it down. They're not doing anything with these drones. And a lot of people perhaps aren't aware, these drones are as big as trucks. They aren't your, the drone that somebody gets for Christmas. Mm-hmm. These are huge. And why don't they send somebody to shoot one of these down to examine them at least? And that's what's really perplexing about this. They're doing nothing about these things.
It's shocking and very frustrating. And Representative Van Drew on Fox News yesterday called for shooting them down, which seems like, to your point, if it's violating U.S. airspace and they're clearly coming from off the coast, then and they're this type of what would seem to be military grade. I mean, I'm not aware you can just go and, down to Walmart and buy one of these, tank-sized drones. Then clearly something is going on, and you would think that military action would be appropriate. But as my guest said this morning, this all points back to Joe Biden, because he would have to give that order. And not only is he incompetent in the last, 40 or so days of his lame duck presidency, but he doesn't even know what's going on. And so everybody else is having to sort of say, well, we don't really know what to do about it.
Hey, it's Chris.
Embarrassing for the United States.
Yeah. It's Chris here. I apologize for speaking over you. You know how oftentimes when a nation or a rogue group within that nation does something, a lawmaker, somebody will say, our adversaries are watching this and they're going to try something too. Let's say, for the sake of the argument, it was Iran or Iran that is behind these drones here. Do you think the lack of inaction from Biden over the Chinese spy balloons kind of, led Iran to think, hey, let's try something?
I mean, why not? Because if you are showing your weakness to your adversaries, then they're probably thinking, well, hey, let's try our luck, because the Chinese were allowed to traverse this spy balloon across the United States, gather whatever data it gathered before it was shot down. And so if we can successfully fly these drones over, gather the data, then at that point, if it's transmitted back to our enemies, it doesn't even matter if they lose the drones themselves. The point is that they were able to surveil, and a lot of these reportedly have come close to military installations, high security areas. So, I mean, they're not just, going over a peaceful little township. This is a national security risk.
Jenna, switching topics real quick before we move on here. The President Biden, Chris mentioned about the pardon and clemency. You want to read that again?
Yes. Biden is commuting the sentences of roughly 1,500 people who were released from prison and placed on home confinement during the coronavirus pandemic. Biden is also pardoning 39 Americans not named Robert Hunter Biden. They were convicted of nonviolent crimes.
Does this matter? I mean, is this normal? Or is this all presidents use the power of the pardon before they leave office? Go ahead.
Yeah, this was reportedly the single most, broad sweeping sheer amount of pardons in a single day from a sitting president. So I think it's novel in that respect. But I think more importantly, because he still has about, 38 or so days, this potentially is laying the groundwork for more controversial pardons down the road, like what has been floated in media to pardon members of his own administration, like perhaps Alejandro Mayorkas, who was impeached and then the Senate declined to actually hold a trial on some of the breach of the law, or Liz Cheney or Adam Schiff, some of the people that were involved in the January 6th committee. Some of those things, if Biden's just going, well, look, I'm pardoning a bunch of people, so they're just all included in this, then it's starting to create this media narrative.
Can you, this is one last question I have. Can a president issue a pardon for crimes not yet committed?
So he can issue a preemptive pardon for crimes not yet charged. He can't do something like, say, for example, pardon his son into the future. So a pardon would have to cover past actions as of the date of the pardon, which is what spans Hunter Biden's, 11 years. But it was January 1st, I think, of 2014 all the way through the December 4th pardon date of 2024. So you can do preemptive pardons in the sense that that there's no legal action yet. And we remember Ford pardoning Nixon when there was just that investigation going on. So that halted the legal action. You just can't pardon into the future.
Okay.
Can't pardon into the future, Ed.
Yeah, for crimes not yet committed.
Yeah.
Get out of jail free card.
So Hunter still's got to be careful with that crack, is what I'm saying.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay,
see what you did there.
Yeah. All right, Jenna, tell us about your podcast real quick.
Yeah, so it's called On Demand with Jenna Ellis, and you can go to our podcast page and click on that link. And we do it once a week. It's released on Friday, so come in tomorrow. We do a deep dive on a particular topic of interest, and if you have a question or a topic or a guest you'd like to hear, you can reach me at jenna@afr.net. And last week we had a really great insight from Ken Cuccinelli, who's a former DHS official in the Trump administration, talking about how the president could actually implement mass deportations. I learned so much just from listening to Ken Cuccinelli. And then tomorrow in our release, we have Scott Horton, who wrote a really great book on the history of the conflict in Ukraine and how it was actually provoked by Washington. He goes all the way back to even pre-Bill Clinton days and kind of gets us up to speed of what happened in the entire Ukraine conflict through the first Trump administration. Really fascinating, a deep dive. So again, the podcast title is On Demand, and you can find that at afr.net.
Thanks, Jenna. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Jenna Ellis joining us there, and check out that podcast. Very, very.
I'm going to listen to that one. That sounds really interesting on Ukraine.
Yeah,
because there is a lot there that most Americans don't know about.
Yeah, that presidential pardon and clemency process, I just don't. I guess that's a good idea. I don't know. Does that go all the way back to our founders?
I think that's in the Constitution.
Okay.
I think it's part of the enumerated powers and the separation of powers and checks and balances. So you can't. The president does have the ability. I guess if there's a politically motivated prosecution, like against someone in the president's administration, then the president says, all right, then, or, then I'm going to pardon them.
Yeah.
But that only applies, of course, to
You
federal.
need a pardon, Chris?
I don't.
Brad, you need
Not
one?
that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm going to call the White House and tell them, hold on, we need
Put your name on the list.
We need a few more.
We're gonna make you an honorary American, Fred.
You know, Biden doesn't even know who he pardoned. I guarantee he doesn't know.
No.
They didn't sit down with him, say, Mr. President, we need 3 or 4 hours here to go over this list with you.
Yeah.
I don't think that happened. I just think whoever his chief of staff is, whoever that is, we even know, or whoever's in charge, basically got their friends to send them over a list.
Yeah.
and said, send all the people you want out over, and we'll
Is
do
it still Jeff Zients? Is that still the chief of staff?
I'm not sure.
Has he always been the chief of staff? I never heard his name.
No, I think there was. No, I think there was someone initially for the Biden administration.
Well, anyway, we just know that President Biden, he didn't do. Yes, his name is on it, and yes, he's responsible for it. But we know that with this many people, this was everybody at the White House. Hey, you know anybody needs out of jail?
So Jeff Zients is current. Ron Klain was.
Okay.
I remember him.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Fred.
Well, I think probably they asked Democrats in Congress, send your list.
Send your list.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they just rubber stamped it.
Yeah.
But that's not unusual, I don't think, for presidents.
It's the number that's unusual.
The number is unusual.
Right? Isn't that what you said?
Oh, yeah, it's the single biggest day.
In other words, most presidents don't sit down like you're suggesting.
No, they don't.
Go back and forth. Do we really need to pardon this
Maybe
guy?
the high-profile ones.
Yeah.
They do.
Remember Bill Clinton? Didn't he pardon his brother or something?
He did.
Yeah.
He did. Trump pardoned Jared's father.
Yeah.
So Jared is the son of Ivanka Sussman.
Yeah, you either got to know somebody or you have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, Biden does claim to know a lot of people, so it is possible, not likely, but possible he does know all these people from his various walks of life, which we've aired his soundbites.
And there's much more coming. The AP
really? This is just getting started.
Oh, this is just getting started. He's got, 39 days left or whatever? No, there'll be more.
A daily release of.
You're going to see a bunch more.
Pun.
It does get him back in the news. I mean, how often do people talk about Joe Biden now, unless he does something to get himself in the headlines?
Yeah.
He's kind of an irrelevant
Maybe
president. I hate to say.
You think he'll tell Hunter and get me a list of all your pals? From
Get
your
Burisma on the phone.
You need a pardon.
I think this administration is going to wind up going down as one of the most corrupt in American history.
Yes.
And one of the most corrupt in which nothing happens to anyone.
Yeah.
They all got away with it.
Well, now Hunter Biden was convicted.
Yeah.
He was tried and convicted.
And what happened? Bupkis.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, he was set to go to prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, he was pardoned. You're right. But anyway, all right, we're going to take a time out right here. We'll be back with more of today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
In the book of Psalms, there's one short verse that says, "Great is our Lord and abundant in power." Back in the second half of the 19th century, there was a soldier by the name of Lew Wallace. He was a general for the Union forces during the war between the states. Lew Wallace was also a lawyer and a statesman of some note. He served as governor of the New Mexico Territory from 1878 until 1881, and as a minister to Turkey from 1881 to 1885. Like many others, Lew Wallace found that as a grown man he had no religious beliefs. He often thought about this, especially when he was around some others who were strong in their belief. He even talked to Robert Ingersoll, the well-known atheist, for hours at one time. Ingersoll tried to prove to Wallace that the Bible was an unworthy book. Following a visit with some friends, Wallace spent some time in deep thought about what the friends had discussed: God, Christ, the Bible, etc. Somehow Wallace had felt left out in the conversation, and the reason was simple. He knew very little about the subjects. Following that conversation, Wallace made up his mind to write a book about what his friends had been talking about. The reason he decided to write a book was that he might make an in-depth study of the Bible. You see, he knew that unless he had some primary reason to study the Bible, that his study would be haphazard and would soon end. So for the next several years, Lew Wallace spent what time he could reading and studying the Bible. He read books related to the Bible, books that put light and understanding on the Bible. He also read books that shed light on the times during which certain events in the Bible took place. In fact, for more than 7 years, Lew Wallace worked on his book. He developed his theme around the life of Christ. Since he knew hardly anything about the Nazarene, he made Christ the secondary figure in the story, kept him in the background. It was while he was serving as governor of the New Mexico Territory that Wallace put the finishing touches on the book. It wasn't a pleasant time to write for the governor, especially since his life had been threatened by none other than Billy the Kid himself. Soon the book was finished. It was to become one of the most famous books ever written. Wallace named it Ben-Hur. It was translated into several languages. In 1927, it was made into a motion picture. In 1959, it was reshot, this time into one of the most spectacular motion pictures made up to that date. The book Ben-Hur still enjoys good sales even today. But the most important thing about this story is that Lew Wallace, the unbeliever, became Lew Wallace, the believer, because of the research on the book Ben-Hur. Many indeed are the paths the Nazarene uses to speak to us.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
This only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple. Psalm 27, verse 4.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Hope you're having a nice day. Today's Thursday, December the 12th, 2024. And Steve will be along in just a little bit. Ed's with me, and Fred, and also Chris. Fred, our guest.
Our guest is Jan Markell, and host of Understanding the Times, heard right here on American Family Radio, Saturday at 1 p.m. Central and Sunday at 12 noon. Jan, I know we tease you a lot about the weather, but I was watching Fox's weather forecast for your neck of the woods this morning, and they said with a wind chill in Duluth, now I know Duluth is a little bit away from Minneapolis where you are, minus 38. Are you feeling that there today?
You know, I think it resembles the planet Mars. I really
do. Jan, if you would go on outside and stand on the patio and do this interview, if you would, so we can get the true sense of what's going on there in
Well, listen, Tim, it's ironic you say that because I just had a package delivered on my front steps, and I don't want to go out and get it because I'm going to turn into an icicle.
What happened? Look at there, Miss Markell. She's froze up.
You don't have to worry about porch pirates.
Didn't know
Frozen to
I
the
guess
porch.
she was getting a package. That's sad how people can go like that. Oh man.
Well, I'll have to air reruns on my program then. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Fred, what were you going to ask?
Yeah, I want to
Jan
talk to you
about?
we want to talk to you about the Middle East, and the latest chapter in the last year or so is what's going on in Syria. How are you feeling about the rebels coming in? Assad has gone to be with his friend Putin in Russia. Is anything going to change with regards to the relationship between Syria and Israel?
No, I don't think so. Probably not at all. I mean, evil was replaced by evil. These rebels are a bunch of Al Qaeda and ISIS and other pretty much undesirables. And I think, well, here's what Israel has done, is I think everyone knows because they're talking about it so much, and that Israel's preemptively gone and taken out 80% of type of weapons and things like that, air bases in Syria that can be used for nefarious 80% of those, whatever they are, that can come against Israel, have been taken out by Israel in the last 2 to 3 days. So you can see she's trying to act preemptively and keep the bad guys from coming in and descending more on Israel. So no, this isn't. Here's the thing, and I think the darkest side of what has just happened would be the Christians in Syria. I mean, there are many. They may not all be a certain denomination. Maybe there's Baptists and Catholics and you name it. But the point is, they follow the cross, and they're about to get annihilated because Bashar Assad, as evil as he was, he left the Christians alone, and he told others to leave him alone. But that is now gone, and I'm not making him out to be a saint because he's just the opposite.
So what do you think is going to happen to the Christians there? I mean, do you think they're going to flee? That's kind of what happened in Iraq after after the collapse of the country. Was you had all these hardliners, and the country of Iraq basically emptied out of Christians. They were told to leave, or you pay the tax, or you die. Do you think they're going to flee from Syria?
Well, I think if they're capable, they will. But we got to be realistic. Not all of them can do that, and I just think there's going to be carnage. And I'm not the only one. The organizations over there, the various Christian concern organizations that reach out in Syria, are expressing just tremendous fear about what's going to happen now. So I think I think anybody who's following the situation, this is our biggest concern, and it should be our biggest concern. Look, Israel could take care of itself. And Isaiah 17 implies, and doesn't imply, it states that Israel is going to be annihilating Damascus at some future point, and that's Isaiah 17, verse 1. And that probably would be nuclear, and it'd probably be in the future. That's certainly not now. But point is that Syria has always played a role. Saul of Damascus, I mean, he was on the road to Damascus, and she's playing a role now. But here's the bottom line. I think, gentlemen, I see this as further destabilizing the Middle East. Look, Libya got sunk, Iraq, Afghanistan, now Syria. I think this is a setup for some superhuman person like the Antichrist who will come along someday and offer peace in this entire region, and for that matter, the entire world. But it'll start with the Middle East, and I think this is a setup for that.
All right, hey, Jan, what do you got coming up on your show this weekend?
We'll talk about some of these things, Tim, this weekend.
Okay, yeah, Syria. Is that the same as the Bible mentions as Assyria? Is it two different? You know what I'm
Well, I think I'm not sure about that. I think I'm not sure. I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
Assyria,
we have to look it up on an old map.
The Assyrians were an empire that its land that it controlled supersedes that of Syria now. But I think Syria got its name from that empire.
I got you. Okay.
I think that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Jan. We look forward to your show this weekend. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Goodbye now.
Take care.
It's our good friend Jan Frozen Markell in Minnesota. And listen,
38 below wind chill
factor in
Duluth. That's brutal.
Yeah.
I in New Brunswick, Canada, I lived for about 3 weeks, minus 40.
Minus 40.
Yeah.
You had to one up.
Wind chill.
Jan.
I'm sure Jan's probably got some.
Yes, she's got
some stories.
So you get up in the morning. You have to if you start your car, you got to let it run for about a half hour.
Yeah.
Before you start down the road, and you'll start down the road, and your tires, where they have been sitting on the ground all night, they stay flat like that. So you're driving down the road and you're hearing clunk, 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 because it takes a while for the air in the tires to warm up as you go along. It is horrible.
I don't see how I know you have. I know they do, because not everyone has a garage in these big cities. You park on the side of the road, of
your driveway,
with a sidewalk
yeah.
or your driveway. But it's really amazing that people can, in that kind of cold. Yeah, you heat your car, you warm your car up, but then it sits.
Well, you
come home.
have block heaters.
Yeah.
You plug your car in, and there's a heater in the bottom of the block of the car, and that keeps it warm. But I've told you guys the story when I was training in the military in Saskatchewan. I had to have my car towed in twice to a garage to thaw out because it wouldn't start.
Just thaw out.
Tow truck had to come, take it into a garage, thaw it out.
They're like ground beef for lasagna.
well, towards the end of my stay in
that's a fist bump there.
in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, which is north of where Jan
Where
lives.
was this?
Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.
Moose Jaw. Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah,
All right.
if your community's named Moose Jaw, maybe you don't.
Yeah.
Maybe human beings don't live there.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the last, I would leave the car running all night because it was cheaper on the gas to keep it running all night than for the tow truck to come and thaw it out.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
It is.
I do not want to retire in that climate.
Right.
No.
It's stories like this that I'm more thankful that my dad moved the family down here from Ohio years before I was
And
born.
Ohio's middle of the road, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
They have the cold weather too, but it's not like Minnesota.
No.
I was born
Certainly
here.
not like Moose Jaw.
Moose Jaws are Sasquatch.
Now my
Or
dad
grizzly ear.
My dad did live in Wapakoneta, Ohio. For any of our listeners in that area, Wapakoneta is where Neil Armstrong is from.
Is that right?
First man that walked on the moon. Yes.
All right.
Or did he?
Yeah. Yeah. The locals call it Wapak.
What was the name of the town?
Wapakoneta.
That's
an
how
Indian name.
Well, that's how a lot of the songs started in the 50s.
Yeah. The Carpenters,
You
they were
remember?
starting
Wow.
out.
That was
Wapakoneta.
Huh?
Yes.
Do it again, Ed.
Wapakoneta.
Am I right?
Yeah.
That's a doo-wop era.
Yeah, it's a doo-wop.
That's where this town got its
Right.
name.
Wapakoneta.
Now, here in Mississippi, we have some names. There's Shukalak, which is anybody's guess. I don't even know. The first time traveler could go back and ask Native Americans back in the day how they pronounce it, they would go, I don't know. That's the way my dad always said it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sugarlock. All right. So you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. What's the next story?
Well, we spent a little bit of time talking about the current president, Joe Biden. Let's focus now on President-elect Trump. He rang the opening bell today at the New York Stock Exchange after being recognized for the second time by Time Magazine as its Person of the Year. I have a little bit of the audio from the bell ringing event, clip 1. That was the bell ring.
Do we have any?
I don't have any of the remarks, but obviously the crowd was very excited to have him there. Going to make the stock market
Well,
great again.
a couple things there. You know, President Trump is a native New Yorker, so and ringing the bell at the Wall Street opening, that's a Monday through Friday ritual forever, and you're an honored guest when you're asked to ring the bell. So, listen, that's got to be a good feeling for him as a New Yorker to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like getting the key to the city, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's up there thinking to his adversaries and enemies, how do you like them big apples?
Yeah.
Take that, Alvin
Yeah.
Bragg.
Yeah, he did say in a story
See what I
that
did
Fred
there with the big apples.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
Fred
yeah.
posted an AP story on our website. Before he rang the opening bell, Trump spoke at the exchange and called it a tremendous honor. He went on to say, Time Magazine getting this honor for the second time. I think I like it better this time, actually. By the way, J.D. Vance was there with him, as was his daughters, and First Lady-elect Melania Trump.
Well, listen, Time Magazine, of course, that it doesn't have the impact that it used to have in terms of on culture, in terms of Man of the Year was highly anticipated. And it did, I don't know, become Person of the Year or something like that. Maybe. Does it still call Man of the Year?
I think it's called Person of the Year now.
Person of the Year.
Person of the Year. But still, they probably don't like giving it to anybody remotely conservative.
No, in fact, Kamala Harris was on the short list. They seriously, they could have.
Oh, yeah. Kidding me.
No, she was on the short list, according to a Political story.
She's 5'8".
That's taller than I am.
I think 5'7", something like that.
Okay,
I
it's
can't
not a
believe-
list of short people.
Oh, my bad.
It is
Thankfully.
a short list for Time Magazine's choice.
Okay, well, thank you for that
For
clarification.
Randy Newman
Of the-
did have the short people. So.
Well, the next cover is going to be Loser of the Year.
Okay.
She's up for that, too.
You guys finished?
Oh, yeah.
You guys finished?
Fred just
Okay, so Kamala Harris, Kate Middleton, Elon Musk, Benjamin Netanyahu also were considered. Time has already announced that WNBA star Caitlin, I apologize for being white, Clark, as Athlete of the Year.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, I just needed to get that shot in.
I mean, they had to give it to Trump. Even if
Yeah,
he
you did.
had not been elected, he was still the most talked about person
Yeah.
of all
Listen,
of
it's
2024.
it's the political comeback of the century.
Yes, it is. He was
maybe
dead.
of American history.
Yes.
Yeah, he was. We were about to have the burial ceremony for Donald Trump, the candidate, right?
The former president.
After what happened January 6th
Yeah.
and all that, so we were.
If they had given it to Kamala Harris, Time Magazine might have
Yeah.
should have just shut their doors at that point because nobody would take them seriously.
Right.
I don't even think lefties would take them seriously at that point.
Well, she'll always have the View. They'll
So
find
hey,
people
listen.
left.
Another reason why the Wall Street is cheering there is because they're anticipating some good times under
Oh, yeah.
President Trump's administration.
Yes.
Huh?
Oh, yeah.
They are.
Big time.
Typically, I always saying, Chris quotes me, the stock market goes up and stock market goes down. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, the ebb and flow is going to be there. However, business and the stock market generally like Republican presidents better because they know that they're not going to pile on more new taxes on the American people and businesses, and they're not going to pile on more new regulations
Yes.
on businesses. So Wall Street generally views Republicans as more business friendly. Therefore, the stock market goes, generally does well under Republican presidents over a period of time. So you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Any of you guys playing the stock market? Are you?
I have a 401k.
I have a 401k.
I don't play. I listen.
It goes up and down.
I always have said this, that I could destroy any company in the world, frankly, by investing in them.
Okay.
That will bring them to destruction.
You could always listen to William Devane and just put all your money in Rosalind Capital Gold. I think they pay him in gold because he's on TV all the time.
Yeah, I saw somebody. By the way, I did do the stock market with my 401k investments for a number of years, and it worked out really well. But then the closer you get to retirement, Fred, the less risk you're willing to
That's
take.
right.
Yeah.
take. I said, quote, play the stock market. I understand stocks are a risk, but they're an educated but you can still. It's not like it's not a gamble. Okay, you can have, because if it were a gamble, you'd be in Las Vegas. So anyway, I know some people say, well, the stock market is a gamble, but there's a science to it. Okay, you can educate yourself, and you hire people who are educated on what companies are doing well, going to do well in stocks, and so forth and so on. So anyway,
I prefer to.
What do you prefer to?
I prefer to invest in this business that I've undertaken.
Yeah. I thought you said you could make any business fail.
Well, no, this
investing.
this is a sure thing, Tim.
Oh.
So what I just need from the people in this room, just need 3 of you to invest.
Right. And contact 3 of our friends.
And then you contact 3 of your friends each, and
then
you'll see we'll all be rich. Or
then we send a letter to those 3 people.
Yeah.
And they're going to send a letter to us with $20 in there, right?
Yeah. Can I caution Ed's Italian? Investing in an Italian-owned business.
That's uncalled for.
Oh, wow.
They're known for their pyramids, okay?
That's uncalled for. We're just, we have a history of being just ordinary businessmen.
Right. That's right.
Who are just trying to make an honest living in America, and we have to undergo this kind of.
And somehow people disappear.
Yeah, that's
well.
They go sleep with the fishes.
Bad things happen. Okay, you want to go boating in the Atlantic? Sometimes bad things happen.
You don't come back.
They got that triangle out there.
Oh man, we are piling on.
All right, let's move on.
The Italian stereotype.
Yes.
In crime families.
Exactly.
Looking for a cannoli joke.
This kind of slander.
Go ahead.
You leave the gun and take the cannoli.
There you go.
Is that a line from The Godfather? Or
that
something?
is a line from The Godfather. You never leave a good cannoli behind.
Oh, man.
In other news.
Yes, in other news, Chris, go ahead.
Speaking of crime, FBI Director Christopher Wray says he intends to resign before President-elect Trump takes office in January.
Wonder why that is.
It was kind of rumored. It was speculated, but Fox actually beat the Associated Press in reporting this yesterday, saying he was going to go ahead and step down. I've got a little bit of audio. Speaking at a podium, he was at an event when he broke the news here. Clip 2.
After weeks of careful thought, I've decided the right thing for the Bureau is for me to serve until the end of the current administration in January and then step down.
After weeks of careful thought,
you
following the election of Donald Trump.
You can't fire me. I quit.
Well, that's exactly what he's doing right there.
Yes.
Of course, I don't know, you can look back through history. It's not uncommon for FBI directors to stay over from one administration to the next, even Republican to Democrat or Democrat to Republican. But in this case, he knows that President Trump is going to start over and name a new. Well, he's already. So I mean, why sit around and wait till? To be called out to the guillotine.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and resign now and go to the House, and that's what Christopher Wray has chosen to do. Ironically, Christopher Wray was chosen by then President Trump to take over the FBI. Was it from James Comey?
Yes.
Yes.
So he's been there. What is that now?
That's almost 10 years ago that Trump took office.
Because it's a 10-year term, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I think it's a 10-year term.
Trump took office in January of 2017, so you're looking at about 8 years difference.
Yeah. Hey, that's a very important position in our government, the director of the FBI. So, I hope that the gentleman that President Trump is going to appoint, Kash Patel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope he's up to the job.
Yeah.
And I hope he does a good job. I hope he's an honest man. And I don't know him. I like what I hear when he's on TV, and I like what he said. But I hope he's successful in administering justice as far as the FBI
and cleaning house.
Yeah.
I think a lot of bad habits were developed under the Biden
Smoking in the
administration.
boys' room, for example. I hear that goes on there.
Now they're vaping.
No, the FBI has been tainted. Let's be honest. We all know that with things that they've done. Not all the agents, obviously, are bad. Most of them are probably good, honest, hardworking, patriotic Americans. But there's some bad apples in leadership, and there's some bad apples in the field. And Kash Patel is going to clean house, I think. Mm-hmm. Don't you?
I absolutely do. And listen, I know there are good people working in the FBI because Fox Mulder and Dana Scully, I mean, they've been working in the FBI for, look at Tim.
That sounds like characters from a Disney movie.
No, from the X-Files.
Yes.
Oh, well, from a TV show.
I just thought
I'd
throw a sci-fi. You wanted to go right to the music.
Yeah.
Smoking in the boys' room.
Right.
Which is bad no matter where you're smoking, folks, obviously.
Right.
But
right.
I wanted to throw a sci-fi reference in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You got me. You got me. Let me go full King of Queens on you. Episode 9.
Yeah.
From season 3.
King of Queens.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I did. One of the senators that's already been meeting with FBI Director nominee Kash Patel is Senator Josh Hawley. It's a 21-second clip, if we can play it here. This is what Hawley had to say about Mr. Patel. Clip 3.
He pledged to me today that he would be absolutely transparent and he would make available to the public all the facts about who, for instance, came up with the idea to try to recruit spies in Catholic churches. Who is it who gave the green light to send SWAT teams to the homes of pro-life demonstrators? Who is it that green-lighted sending the FBI to the homes of parents who went to school board meetings?
We do need. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say.
Yeah.
That's great.
Amen. We do need to know those things.
Yes.
Good for Josh
We're
Hawley.
going to be
for bringing
busy
them
next
up
year
and-
with.
Listen,
anything.
I also want to know something about the two guys, young men that tried to shoot Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know something about the guest list at Epstein Island. You know, we need to find out about, were people lying to FISA courts? All this kind of stuff I'm hoping somewhere inside the building of the FBI. I love this attitude. We need answers. Because democracy dies in darkness.
It does.
That.
Yeah.
What he had just said.
The Washington Post.
It's profound.
Yeah. It's going to be a very busy year. We have Kash Patel. You've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. potentially running Health and Human Services.
These Senate hearings here are going to be downright entertaining.
It will be the most exciting moments on C-SPAN in a very long time.
Well, I know around the building. By the way, folks,
right?
Please don't email me about this is not a democracy. I don't want to get started in that discussion.
I know what you meant.
Everyone knows what I meant, except for that 2% of 2% of you.
It's a representative republic, a constitutional republic.
They
and
get
Ed knows
triggered.
that.
It's a
Democracy.
representative democracy in the form of a republic.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I was going to say is around this building, you're going to hear lots of televisions, lots of computers turned to these hearings because that's going to be must-see TV.
And I think there's going to be a huge difference this time from the first Trump administration. All the mainstream media went after Trump, but we know there's a revolution going on within the media as well. Zuckerberg just gave Trump $1 million for the inauguration.
Yeah.
It's just there's a
Trump is making the world come to heel.
Yeah.
They will bow down.
It's fascinating.
It is interesting that the world is kind of having to deal with the fact that there's a new sheriff in town.
Yeah, and it's the old sheriff that we didn't
Yes,
like. No, you're not going to believe this. He's back.
Yeah, these European leaders.
Listen, I mean, you get what is the? I mean, to have a comeback like Trump has.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can't help but.
This is Rocky Balboa.
But walk around and go, hey, look at me now. How you like me now? We'll be back in 5 minutes.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
As a federal or state employee, you have the opportunity to support the American Family Association through the combined federal campaign by designating a monthly payroll deduction using 12037. You help AFA continue to fight for your family. So when you complete your CFC form, remember, AFA's number is 12037. And thank you for your help.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. President-elect Donald Trump ringing the opening bell on Wall Street at the New York Stock Exchange this morning as he continues to promote a strong economy when he retakes office. Edward Lawrence has more from the White House.
President-elect Donald Trump coming into January with a very specific set of goals, very driven. He wants to get done very quickly, and that includes extending the tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, cutting taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security. The president-elect wants to lower the corporate tax rate to 15%, but only for those companies making products here in the U.S. Firms like non-lethal weapons maker Byrna have already started to move production ahead of that. So even businesses with a chilly relationship with the incoming president warming up. Meta spokesperson confirms to me that Meta donated $1 million to the inauguration for President-elect Trump, and this comes a few weeks after founder Mark Zuckerberg had dinner and a meeting at Mar-a-Lago with the president-elect.
As FBI Director Christopher Wray announces his resignation, his potential replacement, Kash Patel, continues to meet with senators on Capitol Hill in an effort to earn votes before he's vetted. Senator Josh Hawley talked about his meeting with Patel and reacted to the news about Wray.
He pledged to me today that he would be absolutely transparent and he would make available to the public all the facts about who, for instance, came up with the idea to try to recruit spies in Catholic churches. Who is it who gave the green light to send SWAT teams to the homes of pro-life demonstrators? Who is it that green-lighted sending the FBI to the homes of parents who went to school board meetings?
Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Todd Blaine have been tapped by President-elect Trump to lead federal law enforcement agencies. The president-elect vows to make sure the agencies treat everyone fairly under the law with his nominees. Ohio Republican Congressman Jim Jordan says Congress should target the FBI's budget as a way to fulfill that promise.
The FBI's budget's like $11 billion a year, and more than 50% is spent on intelligence, counterintelligence, and domestic terrorism. I think most Americans think their FBI should be primarily focused on going after traditional bad guys.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy and law enforcement officials continue to assure the public that mysterious drones flying over the state at night don't pose a threat to public safety. But Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton says the drones should be taken seriously.
Maybe next time it's going to be carrying sarin or VX or some other kind of deadly toxin for our people. That's why we can't assume that these things are not threatening. We have to assume that something could be up.
And a national defense analyst and Pentagon strategist believes that a New Jersey congressman could be right about who is launching dozens of drones over New Jersey. Chad Groening has more.
Representative Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey says that, quote, very qualified and reliable sources believe that the drones flying around the New Jersey skies are in fact Iranian, launched by a ship off the East Coast. The New Jersey lawmaker believes that the drones should be shot down. But the Pentagon denies Van Drew's allegations, saying there is no Iranian mothership launching drones towards the United States. Bob McGinnis is senior fellow for national security at the Family Research Council and author of the newly released book, Preparing for World War III, a global conflict that redefines tomorrow.
I don't have any reason to believe the congressman's lying. So it may be that he has been told or misled by someone. But if in fact the congressman is correct that they are being supplied by likely a large cargo ship that's outside of international waters and the Atlantic, and then launching them at night to go in and do reconnaissance and just kind of test our systems, then that's pretty disconcerting.
McGinnis says the Iranians understand us as their enemy.
And so taking the fight to us, especially as Mr. Trump comes into office, is something that I think is a very clear message now. And there are a host of things going on here. And I think that if what the congressman is saying is true, then we have a geopolitical mess at our doorstep. And I hope that we're using all our means to take down the drones and then also to go after the mothership, which no doubt is in international waters, but I think we could take care of that too if we wanted to.
I'm Chad Groening.
And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is capping bank overdraft fees at $5, with a rule set to take effect in October 2025 if it isn't overturned by Congress or altered under a Trump administration. Currently, overdraft fees can be as high as $35. For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
As our nation faces a host of unprecedented challenges, it's important that we use the Lord's provisions to support conservative judicial nominees, advance biblical principles, and help faithful Americans contend for truth in the public arena. AFA Action is working at the federal, state, and even school board levels to promote critical policies to protect your family. But in order to accomplish our mission, we need help from faithful partners like you to reach our year-end budget goal. So please visit afaaction.net to give today. afaaction.net.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues. That's the name of this here show on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim with Ed Vitagliano, Fred Jackson, and now in studio is Steve Paisley Jordahl. Good morning, Brother Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
Just so people know, Steve is got a little cold. You got a little cold going on?
It comes and goes. Right now, my voice is okay. I've got some liquid and I got a cough drop in.
Okay.
I'm
nothing illegal.
No. I'm channeling
well, you
Ed.
wouldn't tell us anyway, but I mean, I'm just saying, why would you confess you're using some kind of drugs? But just so people know, what's wrong with Steve's voice? It may or may not vary, but no fever.
Nope, not contagious.
So we're not you're not contagious. What's your first story, Steve?
Well, let's talk about what's going on in the UK. The United Kingdom has banned puberty blockers for teens indefinitely. They were, like the United States, occasionally assigning these or prescribing these puberty blockers to these kids with gender dysphoria. And they say they don't know near enough about what the effect of that will be. There was an unacceptable safety risk in prescribing puberty blockers without future research into their impact, according to the New York Times. So now you cannot, except for clinical trials, you cannot prescribe
Good for them.
blockers to anybody.
That's the United Kingdom. That would include Great Britain and which is Scotland and
England,
and Ireland.
Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, good for them. I think of those folks as more socially liberal than us. Is that not true?
I think that is true. But I think they were also, along with some of the Scandinavian countries, for example, were further down the road on this than we are, and so I think they've learned that this was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Before some of our medical professionals.
Last week, when the United States Supreme Court was hearing arguments on the Tennessee ban on these procedures, one of the justices, I forget who it was, brought up he said, maybe we should pay attention to what's going on in Europe and how the Europeans are backing away from their extreme liberal approach to this because they're finding they were further down the road than we were, and they're finding out that some of the puberty blockers or whatever the case may be, kids are changing their minds about what was done at an earlier age, and we should pay attention to what is happening in Europe before we go wholesale on lifting all of these bans. So this is going to be very interesting. Tennessee is kind of leading the charge on this.
I want to push back a little bit against Ed, what Ed said, that our scientists haven't figured out far down the road. How much of a scientist do you have to be to know that you don't give healthy children drugs that will impede their growing up, maybe permanently? Yeah. You don't have to be much of a scientist to know that.
Yeah, it's not a scientific approach. It's clear that this is an ideological approach to this issue.
Yeah.
There was who is this lady? She may be the one who is being sued. The one who decided she was not going to publish the results of her study that showed that being affirming to transgender children and doing the puberty blockers and so on and so forth does not improve their mental health.
Yeah.
And she had the results of that. And she said, well, I'm not going to publish it because it showed the opposite. So this has been one of those things I think that has severely damaged the reputation of the medical/scientific community for exactly the reason that you're suggesting, Steve.
Johanna Olsen Kennedy.
Okay. This has damaged the reputation of the medical/scientific community as much as the COVID fiasco.
Related to this, who was the doc? Last week I sent y'all around a story. There was a doctor. I don't remember talking about it, but I wasn't here all week. Maybe you talked about it on Monday. There's a medical doctor who gave a teenage girl, I think it was, a bunch of these puberty blockers and did some stuff to her. And now the girl has come back several years later, like 5 or 6 years later, and she's an adult, maybe 20 years old, and said this permanently.
This is her, this woman, that Steve just mentioned, Johanna Olson Kennedy.
Well, that's the researcher, isn't it?
Yes, she leads the Center for Trans Youth.
You're talking about somebody that took the drugs and then sued?
Just to finish.
Let me finish here. She leads the Center for Trans Youth at Los Angeles Children's Hospital. One of her patients is suing her for being negligent.
Okay, she's a doctor herself, true?
Yes.
And she's also the leader of the, what do you call it?
She is the medical director for the Trans Youth Health and Development at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. That was one of the first to go full bore and saying we are going to help children transition.
We'll do surgeries on them.
Yes.
We'll give them puberty blockers. We'll give them help them get breast. What do you call those things where you strap around your breast to keep them
binders?
That's just binding, but
you can get
they'll
those.
have the surgeries for removal.
Anyway, the point is they're full on pro. Letting children decide what sex they are when they're 6 years old, kind of thing. Okay, and now it's backfired on her because she is being sued.
Yes.
And this is what you mentioned a couple of years ago, Steve. You said this would likely happen, and this would stop this nuttiness, craziness, insanity, and that is a doctor who does these kind of life-altering surgeries on a child, a minor. Then that minor, and when they're 20 years old, goes, you know what? I don't like this. I'm messed up for life. Who did this to me? I didn't know what I was doing when I was 12 or 11 or 10. And she's suing that.
Yes, for medical malpractice. So the young lady's name is Kaya Clementine Breen. She's now 20 years old. She's alleging that Olson Kennedy, this is a National Review story, the Children's Hospital Los Angeles and other defendants rushed her into transitioning to a male in spite of her struggles with mental health and history of suffering sexual abuse. Continuing to quote, the plaintiff's transgender treatments involved puberty blockers at age 12, cross-sex hormones at 13, and finally a double mastectomy at 14.
Oh, my goodness. Great. Well, so now she's 20 years old, and she's going, what has happened to me? I was 12 or 14, whenever she was, when I was talking about these things, and this doctor did surgery and took my breast off, and now I'm going, what have I done? And now, so she's going, listen, I'm not a sue happy person. I think there's too many lawsuits in this country, and most things need to be solved out of court, mediation, so forth and so on. But you have a medical doctor do this to a child. I hope she wipes out her bank account.
Listen, this story goes on. It says the lawsuit accuses this Olson Kennedy lady, the doctor, of outright lying in several instances. The claim is that Olson Kennedy lied to Breen and her parents that puberty blockers were completely reversible, according to the suit. The pediatric doctor also allegedly lied about Breen's purported suicidal thoughts to her parents when trying to convince them about hormonal therapy. This is a big part of it. She
wanted a trophy.
This doctor was an activist.
I think that's fair.
She was more than a medical doctor. She was an activist. She did the surgeries, and now this 20-year-old is going, what you did to me was wrong. I was a minor, and I'm suing you for damages. And I think she's got it. If she wins a big settlement, let's say she gets $5 million. I don't know what, $2 million. I don't know what she's. And this is going to be in California, I guess. That will stop this craziness, because then doctors will have to who are making doing these kinds of surgeries. I think it would stop it. Then they would have to consider, well, I'm doing this to this 15-year-old, but what happens in 5 years when they change their mind, like this lady did, this girl out in California did, and they sue me? Yeah. I'm just saying, are those doctors who do that, are they going to be able to get insurance?
That's a good point.
Malpractice?
This article says that according to Breen's lawsuit, that Olson Kennedy, the doctor, lied to the parents and said your daughter will commit suicide if she does not receive cross-sex hormones. Confronted with their daughter's hypothetical death, the parents relented and agreed to the testosterone treatment. And Breen also hesitantly agreed.
Okay, I don't altogether forgive the parents for this, but I can understand if you're a parent and some person with a white coat walks in and says, your kid's going to kill themselves if you don't let this happen. If you're not a Christian, you don't have good discernment, and you don't have, you know what I'm saying? I can see how somebody who doesn't have a moral necessarily conviction one way or another on this would say, oh, what do we do? I guess we just better do what the doctor says and do these things, or our daughter might be suicidal.
The earlier thing we were talking about that Steve looked up, Olson Kennedy, the doctor, I'm quoting again from this National Review article, has come under intense scrutiny for refusing to publish the findings of a nearly $10 million study funded by the National Institutes of Health that found no evidence.
Is that Fauci?
Yeah.
Oh, is he
well,
infectious?
he's retired.
Is that
not during the study.
Well, that could be. That found no evidence that puberty blockers improved the mental health of children. Yeah, that's stunning. The government funds it. That should then become public knowledge.
That's
you don't
right.
refuse to release the
That's right. You
results of
can't.
the study, and you refuse to release the results because it contradicts your whole ideology.
Stop. Well, and that's the thing I was just thinking. You can stop the surgeries and stop the drugs, and you should immediately. Period. End of discussion. But then you got to root out this belief that gender and sex are different. That you can have some expression of gender that's different. That you're assigned a gender at your birth. This silliness has to end. And that's going to be a little harder to do, but that's the root of the problem.
And folks, if you're trying to find this article that we're quoting from, this is nationalreview.com, nationalreview.com. The headline is Top Doctor in Trans Youth Medicine Sued. That probably will get you the link. Brent's looking it up. If he can find it, he'll post it on
Next
Facebook.
story, Steve.
All right. There's a new trend going around in some of the liberal denominations in this country and around the world.
Yeah, it's called losing members.
It is. Well, they're putting up manger scenes. You know, creches, the baby Jesus, Joseph, Mary, and the shepherds and everything you put on your mantle. Well, they're wrapping the baby Jesus in these what they call keffiyehs, which is that Palestinian scarf, the black and white checkered, which has become a symbol of protest, of the pro-Palestinian protest.
Who's doing this?
Various churches. In fact, the Pope even blessed one in Rome. He later took it down after he got a big backlash to it. But the sentiment here is that Jesus is, if he were born today, he'd be Palestinian.
So they're politicizing the birth of Christ and the celebration of Christmas.
They're making it
some of these liberal denominations in the U.S. Is this the U.S.?
Yeah, around the world, actually, it says.
Around the world, okay.
So the claim is that if Jesus were born today, he'd be a Palestinian. No, he'd be, unless you want to change the Bible, he was born to a Jewish woman.
Yes.
Okay, he's Jewish.
King of the Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Can we not just have Christmas?
Can I read a story here before we jump into Steve's next one? So this is MSN.com. I don't know if it's the same as MSNBC. I don't know. Anyway, it's about cable news.
Yeah.
And it says viewers have fled. This is about cable news, which would include, namely, Fox, CNN, and MSNBC. Those are the three ones that most everybody knows. Now, there's Newsmax and some others, but those have been the three for years and years, right? And now viewers have fled left-leaning MSNBC since Vice President Kamala Harris lost the presidential race to former President Trump on November 5th. The audience for the Comcast-owned channel, that's MSNBC, owned by Comcast, is down 46% compared to the first 10 months of 2024.
Yep.
According to Nielsen data. CNN, which has long battle rating swings directed by news coverage, is down 33% after the election. So Fox News is up, but I don't know, Steve, if MSNBC and or CNN is going to be able to hang around much longer.
Well, CNN is up for sale, they say. Comcast, is it CNN or MSNBC? CNN.
MSNBC.
Oh, MSNBC and Comcast, right. I'm
they're
sorry.
going to spin it off.
MSNBC is spinning off, and people have suggested maybe Elon Musk needs to buy it. That would be really funny. But, yeah, their viewership has not come back. You know, this was their bread and butter during the first Trump term, this anti-Trump resistance, this never-Trumpism, and they made big bucks and had a fairly good-sized audience during the first Trump term. But they have not. They've left and they have not come back.
Well, but I'm
I'm
curious though. They were dedicated to CNN and MSNBC during the election campaign. Are they mad because the Democrats lost?
That's a good question.
I've heard a theory that they're just kind of over it for a bit, and they might be back once Trump gets back in office. But it's like. They want to go watch baseball for a bit.
I don't think that Elon Musk is going to buy.
No, I don't think
either. Because you know what, that's not the future.
Yeah,
no,
the future. The future's not MSNBC and CNN.
Mm-hmm.
Fox News is positioned to stay relevant for a long time, but it's like it'd almost be like this is a little bit of an over exaggeration, but it'd be kind of like buying a horse and buggy. Horse, what is they remember the horse whip, buggy whip factory when cars are coming online.
No.
You know, that's not the future. And I don't, Elon Musk, if anything, he's a very smart, savvy businessman.
It was more in the realm of, wouldn't it be funny if?
No, it would absolutely be funny. By the way, MSN is Microsoft News.
Yeah.
It's different than Microsoft. I mean, MSNBC.
Do any of you guys watch cable news anymore?
Yeah,
we have it on here at the office, but I'm talking about.
Not at home. I don't.
In the was it 90s and 2000s? I used to really look forward to Bill O'Reilly's show every night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I watched him religiously, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And he was excellent in my opinion.
I remember in CNN, I used to watch every night. I would watch Crossfire.
Yeah,
that was been in the 80s, right?
Is that 80s?
Yeah, that's 80s. But I'm talking about now. I do go to Fox News website. We all do here because they're one of the news websites that you trust and go to. But I don't watch cable news. I don't tune into a show every night like I used to. I used to enjoy watching him.
And that's what I mean.
But times have changed, and the internet's changed everything.
We're locked in. You and I, we're locked into politics because I'm saying the same thing you're saying. We are of an age where you would expect us to be hanging around, watching news broadcasts like we used to, but we're not.
No.
I will watch. I won't watch Greg Gutfeld's show when it comes on. I'll watch clips of it later on.
Oh, his show at night?
Yeah.
That he hosts?
What is it, The Five?
The Five is different than the Five.
Gutfeld is on real late at night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, Gutfeld's numbers were beating those of the three Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, and Stephen Colbert. Like the three big names for late night TV on the networks.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it combined?
Was it combined?
I don't know.
Anyway, beating them with a cable channel, which is highly unusual.
Maybe not.
Because but those people are so. Again, if you're a far left, it's hard to keep an audience, I think. That's my opinion. Of course, those guys have been on the air a long time.
Yeah.
Those three comedians, as such that they are. Go ahead, Steve.
All right.
Steve, are you interested in buying any one of these networks?
Let me
MSNBC
get
or
my wallet
CNN.
out here. I got
Well, you'll be
$7 on me.
The price will be down that low before they get
probably
through
will.
going. It looks like it right here.
Such a deal.
Rachel Maddow had to take a $5 million cut or something. I don't know.
She did. Well,
Crazy.
she's only on 1 day a week.
Yeah, that's nuts that they're paying her for that 1 day a week. And then who else? Joy Reid, is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she'll have a breakdown of some kind if she's not already having one. She's already in the midst of one on TV.
She acts like it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And then
she's so angry.
And then what happened to their other mainstays was the Joe Scarborough and
Mika Brzezinski.
Yeah. Well, they've already bowed the knee to Trump, so they're over. So I don't know where that goes. They're just a ship without a rudder right now, adrift on the sea of Trump.
Adrift on the sea of Trump.
That'd be a good country song. All right, go ahead, Steve. What's your next story?
There is a group called the Satanic Temple.
Really?
Yep, and they are trying to worm their way into elementary schools to oppose a Christian
This is the
program.
Good News Club?
Well, kind of Good News Club, or in Ohio, specifically where they're talking about here, it's LifeWise Christian. Take students out of school for 55 minutes. It's kind of a
Where is this?
release. This is in Ohio, and they want to go to Tennessee. And so
the Satanic Temple.
The Satanic Temple. It was said we're going to put a.
You're going to have to get a better name than that. You're going. You
Well,
know what I'm saying? You're going to have to be a little bit more conspicuous. Go ahead.
They're going to court.
To the Satanic Temple?
Yes, they're going to court, and they're arguing if you're going to allow one religious group, you've got to allow us.
And so they say we don't believe the biblical Satan or any sort of supernatural Satan. We look to Satan as a symbol and nothing else.
You mean is this like for clubs?
Yeah, like a school club.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember?
You ain't going to get anybody to join.
Well, they've got some successful clubs.
You're not going to get down to having a treasurer.
Well, do you guys remember Keith Green? The Christian singer,
Yes.
Keith Green?
Yeah.
He had a song that he sang, which is called "The Devil's Boast," and it was what Satan is saying now, how he gets his people, how he fools people. Listen to cut 15.
You know, it's getting very simple now, since no one believes in me anymore.
He says it's getting simple to get people now that they don't believe in me anymore, which is exactly what this Satanic Temple is saying.
I liked Keith Green's
I
music.
do too.
And I remember that song when you were playing it. I can't ever remember titles of songs, but I remembered that particular song. Listen, that this is the Satanic Temple just trying to make a name for themselves. Boy, have they. And make money and gain some influence. But I don't see how many parents are going to sign off? Yes, I want my child. I'm here to pick up my kid.
Right.
To go to his lesson in Satanism.
And in school announcements, the Satanic Temple will be having a bake sale on Saturday afternoon for those who want to come.
In Ohio, I mean,
hey, listen.
Who's gonna let
all right,
their kid-
listen. I'm not criticizing you for bringing this story up, Steve, but I don't think this is going to go anywhere.
I hope not.
It's not going to go anywhere.
You're going to let your kid go spend the night over at the house of the friend
Sponsor?
who goes to the Satanic Temple
No, you're not.
meeting?
No, you're not. You can just tell Johnny.
Yeah.
The reason Mom and Daddy won't let you go over there
is because
he
he's a
wears goat
Satanist.
horns.
He's a Satanist.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Satanism is not funny. Sorry if my jokes came across that way. It's not funny. These people are just being ridiculous here in that Ohio town, wherever that was. All right. We hope you have a wonderful day, and my thanks to Fred, Ed, Steve, Chris, Jenna, Jan, Brent Creeley, our producer. Thank you for listening to the show. We'll be back tomorrow with Trivia Friday, so join us then.
As Christians, how can we even begin to impact others when we live in a culture where truth is relative? It all